If you think the story of William Money and the aging gunslingers in Unforgiven is everything, think again. The film is a Western classic, but the real lives of its cast are even more astonishing. From broken marriages and turbulent careers to sudden deaths that fans never knew about. Join us as we uncover these shocking truths. You won't believe what you find. Clint Eastwood as William Money. Clint Eastwood was born on May 31, 1930, in San Francisco, California. At 62 years old, Eastwood played William Money in Unforgiven, 1992, a tortured former outlaw pulled back into violence. The role became a turning point that redefined his image, from action icon to a filmmaker capable of profound moral complexity. His marital life was far darker than the hard men he portrayed. His first marriage to Maggie Johnson collapsed under decades of infidelity, hidden affairs, and children fathered outside the marriage. His 14-year relationship with Sandra Locke became a psychological war zone filled with accusations of manipulation, retaliation, and a lawsuit that exposed the emotional damage between them. The fallout bled into his work, shaping the brooding, morally conflicted tone of Tightrope and the obsessive turmoil embedded in Play Misty for Me. The turbulence continued into his relationship with Frances Fisher, which began during Unforgiven but soon fell apart from emotional distance and the pressure of his growing fame. His marriage to Dina Ruiz eventually unraveled into disputes over trust and stability, pushing Eastwood into periods of depression he later admitted had once made him consider suicide. Though he escaped major illnesses, the toll of decades of emotional conflict left him with lifelong insomnia, anxiety, and an aching sense of personal failure. Today, Eastwood is 95 years old, living quietly after directing Juror Number 2 in 2024. His net worth, built across decades of acting, directing, and real estate investment, is estimated at $375 million. Gene Hackman as Little Bill Daggett. Gene Hackman was born on January 30, 1930, in San Bernardino, California. At 62 years old, Hackman played Little Bill Daggett in Unforgiven, 1992, a ruthless sheriff whose charisma and brutality dominated every scene. The role revitalized his career, earning him an Oscar and reminding the industry of his unmatched versatility. His marriages held a quiet kind of devastation. His first marriage to Faye Maltese crumbled under relentless financial instability, constant job changes, and the emotional abandonment caused by his obsession with proving himself as an actor. As fame arrived with The French Connection and Superman, he grew colder, more irritable, and overwhelmed, driving the couple further apart until the divorce severed their family in 1966. Even his second marriage to Betsy Arakawa carried its own fractures. Resentment from years of guilt toward his children, emotional withdrawal, and the growing strain of a career that drained everything he had left to give. The emotional weight followed him into his later years. A string of career disappointments in the 1980s fueled depression, heavy drinking, and a deep fear of professional irrelevance. His health began deteriorating early, heart problems, tremors, and the slow onset of memory loss that eventually grew into full Alzheimer's. By the time he withdrew from public life, Hackman was already fighting a private battle against a body and mind that were slipping away. Hackman died at 95 years old on February 18, 2025, in Santa Fe, New Mexico, from cardiovascular disease complicated by late-stage Alzheimer's, just weeks after the death of his wife, Betsy Arakawa. His net worth at the time of his passing was estimated at $80 million, earned through a lifetime of acting and authorship. Morgan Freeman as Ned Logan. Morgan Freeman was born on June 1, 1937, in Memphis, Tennessee. At 55 years old, Freeman played Ned Logan, the loyal and grounded companion to William Money in Unforgiven, 1992, a role that added depth and humanity to the film while cementing his status as a versatile actor after Street Smart, 1987, and Driving Miss Daisy, 1989. The character showcased his signature gravitas and empathetic presence, becoming a defining performance in his career. Freeman's personal life carried turbulence often hidden behind his calm voice. His first marriage to Jeanette Adair. Bradshaw ended in 1979, and his second marriage to Myrna Colley Lee lasted from 1967 to 2010, ending after 42 years due to irreconcilable differences. Amidst long-term public acclaim, he navigated family drama involving 6 children, including a child born out of wedlock, creating constant emotional strain. These pressures intersected with a demanding career, where discrimination, financial hardship, and delayed recognition shaped his resilience, influencing the authenticity he brought to films like The Shawshank Redemption, 1994. In addition to emotional struggles, Freeman faced physical and reputational challenges. A serious car accident in 2008 caused shoulder and nerve injuries requiring extensive rehabilitation and chronic fibromyalgia, while a 2018 allegation of workplace misconduct, although settled and denied, inflicted stress and public scrutiny. Despite these obstacles, Freeman continued to work, lending his voice to iconic films and narrations, balancing health limitations with his enduring dedication to the craft. Today, Morgan Freeman is 88 years old. He remains active in selective acting and voiceover work, with a net worth estimated at $250 million, earned through decades of performance, narration, and production. His legacy combines the emotional depth of his roles with the resilience of a man who overcame both personal and systemic adversity. Richard Harris as English Bob. Richard Harris was born on October 1, 1930, in Limerick, Ireland. At 62 years old, Harris played English Bob, the arrogant and flamboyant gunslinger in Unforgiven, 1992, a role that drew on his charismatic, commanding presence and long theatrical experience, reinforcing his reputation as one of Ireland's most celebrated actors. Harris's personal life was punctuated by tumult and heartbreak. His first marriage to Elizabeth Reese Williams produced 3 children, including Jared Harris, but ended in 1969 due to his repeated infidelities. His second marriage to Annabelle Brooks dissolved quickly, affected by Harris's heavy drinking and erratic behavior. These marital struggles compounded the stress of a high-profile acting career, often impacting his focus and leading to publicized conflicts and near financial instability, particularly after unsuccessful rock tours and erratic public appearances. Substance abuse and health crises shadowed his later years. Harris was a long-term alcoholic until his early 1980s sobriety, but episodes of hospitalization and public drunkenness persisted. In 2002, he was diagnosed with Hodgkin's lymphoma and chose to continue acting in Harry Potter, 2001 to 2002, rather than undergo chemotherapy, a decision that contributed to his rapid decline. Despite these challenges, he maintained creative output, recording the hit MacArthur Park, and leaving an enduring theatrical and cinematic legacy. Richard Harris died at 72 years old on October 25, 2002, from Hodgkin's lymphoma. At the time of his death, his net worth was estimated at $10 million, reflecting a career of remarkable achievements shadowed by personal demons and health struggles. Saul Rubinek as W. W. Beauchamp. Saul Rubinek was born on July 2, 1948, in Fürstenwald, Germany. At 44 years old, Rubinek played W. W. Beauchamp, the naive and observant writer in Unforgiven, 1992, providing comic relief and narrative insight that balanced the film's darker themes. This role highlighted his versatility and drew on his strong theatrical background, reinforcing his reputation after performances in Wall Street, 1987, and later in True Romance, 1993. Rubinek's personal life was marked by the shadow of his family history and early hardships. Growing up as the child of Holocaust survivors, he faced systemic discrimination in Canada due to his Jewish heritage and accent, initially restricting him to minor roles. His career was punctuated by near failures in the 1990s, which forced him to explore directing theater to maintain financial stability, creating constant pressure to balance survival with creative ambition. Marriage brought both stability and tension. Rubinek married Zale Dalen in 1992, and together they had 2 children. Yet career choices sometimes conflicted with family life. He reportedly declined larger roles to prioritize domestic responsibilities, sparking internal conflict and financial stress. Now, Rubinek is 77 years old, still active in film, television, and stage productions, including playing Shylock in Brooklyn and Toronto. His net worth is estimated at $3 million, earned through decades of acting, directing, and producing, reflecting a career of quiet perseverance and dedication to craft amidst personal and historical challenges. Frances Fisher as Strawberry Alice. Frances Fisher was born on May 11, 1952, in Milford-on-Sea, England. At 40 years old, Fisher played Strawberry Alice, the commanding madam in Unforgiven, 1992, a role that showcased her dramatic strength and allowed her to hold her own opposite Clint Eastwood, highlighting her emergence from stage work into major film visibility. Fisher's romantic life was intertwined with professional pressure. Her long-term relationship with Clint Eastwood from 1990 to 1994 produced a daughter, Francesca, but the intense filming and travel schedules created emotional strain that eventually led to separation. Earlier, her attempts to break into acting after migrating to the U.S. were hampered by rejection due to her English accent, creating ongoing career instability and personal frustration. These pressures contributed to periods of anxiety and self-doubt, particularly in the early 2000s, when roles for older actresses were scarce. Career setbacks compounded personal challenges. Fisher navigated typecasting and inconsistent work, nearly experiencing depression as Hollywood overlooked mature actresses. Despite this, she continued to secure significant roles, including the mother of Rose in Titanic, 1997, and appearances in House of Sand and Fog, 2003, and The Lincoln Lawyer, 2011. As of 2025, Fisher is 73 years old, still acting and mentoring younger performers, supporting her daughter Francesca's career while taking selective roles. Her net worth is estimated at $4 million, accumulated from decades of film, television, and stage work, illustrating resilience in the face of personal and professional adversity. Anna Thompson as Delilah Fitzgerald. Anna Thompson was born on September 18, 1953, in New York City, New York. At 39 years old, Thompson played Delilah Fitzgerald, the disfigured prostitute whose story sparks the central conflict in Unforgiven, 1992, a role that showcased her subtle emotional depth and reinforced her reputation for nuanced performances in films like True Romance, 1993. Thompson's career was shaped by quiet perseverance rather than public drama. She began in off-Broadway theater, enduring rejection for her thin physique and struggling financially while taking work as a server to survive. Collaborations with directors like Abel Ferrara elevated her profile, yet her work often remained in low-budget or art house films, limiting mainstream recognition and income, which created persistent stress and uncertainty. Her personal life was discreet, yet complex. A brief marriage to a producer ended amicably, and she later raised a family while balancing sporadic film roles. The demands of motherhood, coupled with the instability of acting work, required sacrifices, including turning down potential high-profile roles to prioritize her children. Today, Anna Thompson is 72 years old, living quietly under the name Anna Thompson Wilson, occasionally performing in stage and independent film projects. Her net worth is estimated at $2 million, reflecting decades of measured dedication to acting and theater. Anthony James as Skinny Dubois. Anthony James was born on July 22, 1942, in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. At 50 years old, James played Skinny Dubois, the sinister brothel owner in Unforgiven, 1992, a role that capitalized on his intimidating presence and typecasting as a villain, complementing his earlier performances in films like In the Heat of the Night, 1967. James's career was both defined and limited by his appearance. His unattractive look made him ideal for villainous roles, but restricted access to leading parts, forcing him to confront repeated rejection and financial instability. The pressure of consistent typecasting, combined with the competitive nature of Hollywood, created chronic stress and uncertainty, compelling him to pursue painting professionally as a supplementary source of income. Personal life details were minimal, but the demands of a career built on playing antagonists and the isolation it brought created an undercurrent of loneliness. Health concerns appeared late in life, though he endured his work schedule with commitment. The physicality required for his roles sometimes added strain, but he remained dedicated to acting until retirement in the early 1990s. Anthony James died at 77 years old on May 26, 2020 in Cambridge, Massachusetts, from cancer. He is remembered for his intense and memorable villainous performances, and his net worth at the time of death was $2 million, derived from acting and his successful post-acting career as an artist. Ron White as Clyde Ledbetter. Ron White was born on June 9, 1953, in Dawson Creek, British Columbia, Canada. At 39 years old, White played Clyde Ledbetter, the deputy sheriff in Unforgiven, 1992, a supporting role that contributed to the tension and moral complexity of the story while complementing the film's central conflict. White's career was quietly challenging. Working primarily in Canadian television, he faced constant stress from migration and periods of unemployment. The limitations of the industry meant that securing significant roles was difficult, which created financial instability and professional uncertainty throughout his life. His personal life was marked by tragedy and loss. White's spouse passed away before him, leaving him to raise their children while balancing a modest acting career. Despite these pressures, he remained dedicated to his craft, though opportunities were limited and public recognition remained minimal. Health issues ultimately caught up with him. Ron White died at 64 years old on April 4, 2018, in Toronto, Ontario, Canada, from cancer. He is remembered for his understated performances and dedication to acting, leaving a net worth of approximately $1 million and a quiet, enduring legacy in Canadian television and film. Rob Campbell as Davy Bunting. Rob Campbell was born in the United States around 1958. At approximately 34 years old, Campbell played Davy Bunting, the gentle cowboy in Unforgiven, 1992, a role that added authenticity and human warmth to the film while introducing him to a wider audience beyond the theater stage. Campbell's life was defined by the slow transition from theater to film. Despite being a Yale School of Drama graduate and an accomplished stage actor, breaking into major film roles proved difficult, creating financial stress and professional frustration. His dedication to performance art meant years of balancing theater commitments with the unpredictable opportunities in film, including small roles and guest appearances. On the personal front, Campbell has experienced relative stability. He married Anna Reeder in 2013, and together they have one child. This later-in-life stability provided him emotional support, allowing him to focus on both stage and screen work without the tumult that plagued many of his peers. Now, Rob Campbell is 67 years old, actively performing in theater and selective screen projects. His estimated net worth is $1 million, earned through decades of dedication to stage, television, and film, reflecting a career built on resilience and artistic integrity. James Woolvett as the Schofield Kid. James Woolvett was born on April 14, 1967, in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. At 25 years old, Woolvett played the Schofield Kid, the nearsighted aspiring gunslinger in Unforgiven, 1992, a role that brought him immediate attention and showcased his youthful energy alongside Clint Eastwood and Morgan Freeman. This breakthrough became the defining moment of his early career, positioning him as a promising young actor in Hollywood. Despite the early success, Wolvett's career faced unexpected challenges. After Unforgiven wrapped, he struggled to find work while pursuing a lead role in New Zealand for White Fang, missing key opportunities in Hollywood. The delay caused professional frustration and isolation, leading to periods of self-doubt and emotional stress. Roles that followed were sporadic, with some recognition like his Gemini nomination for Hard Time, but nothing matched the prominence of the Schofield Kid, leaving him grappling with the weight of early fame. Personal life pressures compounded professional difficulties. Wolvett navigated the intense demands of the industry while attempting to establish stability, yet the scarcity of substantial roles and the uncertainty of acting work contributed to emotional strain and bouts of depression. These experiences shaped his perspective on the industry, prompting him to pivot toward mentoring, directing, and supporting emerging artists through workshops and school programs while maintaining a lower-profile lifestyle. As of 2025, James Wolvett is 58 years old, actively mentoring and directing, while occasionally acting in film and television projects. His net worth is estimated at $1 million, earned through his decades-long dedication to acting, creative projects, and community engagement, reflecting a career defined by both early triumphs and quiet perseverance. Beverly Elliott, as Silky Beverly Elliott, was born on December 31, 1960, in Listowel, Ontario, Canada. At 32 years old, Elliott played Silky, the prostitute in Unforgiven, 1992, a role that marked her transition from singing to acting and demonstrated her ability to convey vulnerability and resilience on screen. This performance laid the groundwork for later recognition in series such as Once Upon a Time. Elliott's path to acting was challenging. She left a stable office job to pursue the arts, facing financial strain and uncertainty while adapting to the competitive world of film and television. The stress of inconsistent work and the demands of learning a new craft tested her determination, yet she remained committed to developing her performance skills. Her personal life added additional pressures. As a single mother raising her daughter Sally, Elliott balanced parenting with auditioning, rehearsals, and filming schedules. The need to provide for her child often required difficult choices, limiting professional opportunities and adding emotional weight. Despite these challenges, she maintained her focus, building a reputation for versatility and perseverance in both stage and screen work. Today, Beverly Elliott is 65 years old, continuing to act and write while supporting her family. Her net worth is estimated at $1 million, reflecting decades of commitment to her craft and the quiet tenacity that has defined her career. Walter Marsh as Barber. Walter Marsh was born on March 20, 1923, in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. At 69 years old, Marsh played Barber, the small-town barber in Unforgiven, 1992, a minor yet grounding role that added authenticity to the film's depiction of everyday life and showcased his steady screen presence, following his work in The Accused, 1988. Marsh's career began later in life, requiring him to overcome the challenges of entering the film industry at an advanced age. He faced the stress of aging in a competitive environment and the limitations that came with being cast primarily in small supporting roles. These pressures, combined with intermittent work, created financial insecurity and personal strain throughout his later years. His personal life remained private, but advancing age and the demands of acting contributed to persistent stress and health struggles. Marsh's dedication to performing, despite the physical and emotional toll, reflected a quiet resilience that defined his career, even if public recognition remained modest. Walter Marsh died at 82 years old on September 17, 2005, in Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada, after a long illness. He lived modestly, with limited financial resources, leaving behind a legacy of professionalism and a peaceful, humble departure from the industry. John Piper Ferguson as Charlie Hecker. John Piper Ferguson was born on February 27, 1964, in Mordialloc, Australia. At 28 years old, Ferguson played Charlie Hecker, the deputy in Unforgiven, 1992, a minor but pivotal role that contributed to the film's tension and realism while showcasing his versatility across stage and screen. However, Ferguson faced early career challenges related to migration and accent adaptation after moving to Canada. Breaking into North American television required overcoming typecasting and rejection, which caused prolonged financial and professional stress. The pressure to succeed in a foreign industry shaped his approach to performance, fostering resilience but also creating periods of uncertainty and self-doubt. On the personal front, Ferguson established stability later in life. He married Anna Reeder in 2013, and together they raised one child, providing him emotional grounding that allowed him to continue navigating the demanding schedules of stage and screen. Despite early career obstacles and the stresses of balancing work with family, Ferguson avoided public scandals or major health issues, maintaining a reputation for professionalism and consistent work ethic. Now, John Piper Ferguson is 61 years old, actively performing in television, film, and stage productions. His net worth is estimated at $2 million, accumulated through decades of persistent dedication to acting and a diverse career across multiple media. Lisa Repo Martel as Faith. Lisa Repo Martel was born in February 1971 in Toronto, Ontario, Canada. At 21 years old, Repo Martel played Faith, a supporting character in Unforgiven, 1992, a role that marked one of her earliest appearances in major film and showcased her ability to balance vulnerability and subtle presence on screen. This performance laid the foundation for a versatile career in both film and theater. Her early career involved navigating the challenges of balancing acting and art. Growing up as the child of prominent editors, she faced high expectations and a demanding environment, which translated into pressure to succeed professionally. Repo Martel often balanced theater, television, and occasional film roles, requiring adaptability and perseverance in a competitive industry. On the personal front, she has built a stable family life with her husband, actor, and theater director Chris Abraham, forming a Toronto theater power couple. Maintaining a dual focus on acting and family required careful prioritization, yet she continued to earn critical acclaim, including a Gemini Award for her 1998 performance in Nights Below Station Street, alongside additional Gemini nominations for This Is Wonderland and Flashpoint. The combination of work stress and artistic ambition demanded resilience. Today, Lisa Repo Martel is 54 years old, actively performing in film, television, and theater, while also pursuing creative projects and mentorship. Her net worth is estimated at $500,000, reflecting decades of steady contributions to Canadian arts and a career marked by enduring creativity and commitment. So, which of these actors' stories shocked you the most? If you want to uncover more hidden truths and dramatic transformations from your favorite films, make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell. You won't want to miss what's coming next.